Hello interpreters, this is Mason the interpreter. Once again, it is Voice. Well, now Equiti. I'm just going to call it Voice/Equiti. When I made last video about Voice/Equiti's mass termination affecting many interpreters, I thought it might be the last video I would make about the company. But after the video, so many interpreters reached out with questions like, "Hey Mason, do you know if I will get fired too? Will there be more? Am I safe?" Which I couldn't answer because I just didn't have the information, but eventually, someone in a managerial position at Voice/Equiti reached out to me, confirming that more mass terminations were planned. I first verified their identity to make sure that it was not just a random person posing as an insider, and once that was checked, I left the update in the comment of my video. Then on December 9, 2024, all interpreters with Voice/Equiti received a mass termination notice. Yes, you heard that right. Everyone was fired. In this video, I will briefly recap what happened, analyze the email sent by Voice/Equiti to uncover the reasoning behind this mass termination, and discuss what we as interpreters can do moving forward, regardless of whether you were directly affected by this or not. If you're ready, let's get started. Here is what happened. As I explained in the previous video, this all began with the acquisition in August 2024, when a company called Cloudbreak Health purchased Voice and rebranded it as Equiti. After the acquisition, many interpreters at Voice/Equiti noticed a decline in their scheduled shift hours. It is assumed that sometime around October and November, all training staff from Voice/Equiti were let go. Then some interpreters received termination notice that was immediately effective just a couple days before Thanksgiving in the US. On November 29th, I posted my YouTube video explaining the mass termination situation. And that's when I heard from many voice interpreters who shared with me privately that it had become nearly impossible to reach management, and they were experiencing issues such as delayed payments and even some verbal abuse from their supervisors. Until this point, people were still quite divided on whether there will be more of termination or not. Some people were even saying that this was just fake news, directly mentioning my video. But then, everything became crystal clear on December 9th because the company sent out a scheduled termination notice to all of their interpreters. The email titled Important Notice of End of Voice Contract confirmed the mass termination. To my knowledge, there were 2 consecutive emails that were sent out containing similar messages, but the company kindly provided a common questions and answers in the email. There were total 9 questions and answers in the email, which I read all of them thoroughly, but I think only 5 of them contain actual information that's valuable to us, in my opinion. So let's read it together and try to really understand what this is saying. Here's the very first question. Why is this change happening? This was their explanation, and if you took my course before, you know how much I hate reading things off for you, so feel free to pause the video and read it yourself if you want. The important bits are that this change is happening because of their business needs, which probably means that they want to make more money, and to meet regulatory requirements, which I will come back to this later on. It also explains that this new model will have direct employees in the US and contractors outside of the US through trusted business partners. Let me visualize this for you. So what they are saying is that from now on, they will have 2 different sectors for their interpreters. One is the US based and the other is non-US based. For the US-based interpreters, Voice/Equiti wants to hire them as its employees. Here you might wonder, isn't working as an employee better than working as an independent contractor? Well, my answer is, it depends. From what I can assume is that if the company hires employees, it could mean that they are required to work full-time hours, get back-to-back calls, and have their calls monitored for quality control a lot more thoroughly. Yes, I would guess the employment will be more stable for US-based interpreters, but I personally don't know if it is really worth it if this is the case. Another common question I saw from other interpreters was the possibility of creating a call center where interpreters have to come in to take calls. But my guess is probably no, just because call centers used to be a thing, but I doubt the cost can be any cheaper compared to the remote model nowadays. So I think they will most likely stick with this new remote employee model for US-based interpreters. Now, for the non-US based interpreters, what the company is saying is that they will continue to have contractors, but not directly hire them. Instead, they will have other outsourcing companies based in that region or country who will hire contractors for them. In fact, this is not a new model at all. I'm sure many of you know the company Language Line Solutions. They have the exactly same thing happening in Canada with another company called Kelly Services because Canadian labor has been much cheaper than US labor. It is also easier for them to replace the interpreters because even when Voyce/Equiti fires them, it's technically not them. It's the outsourcing company that is terminating the contract. So there's no blood stain on their hands. So I'm going to make an analogy here. But I just wanted to give you a quick warning because I think this could upset some interpreters. An easy way to depict this model is to think of the company as a machine. And to power this machine, it uses the US-based interpreter as a main source of power, like electricity. And non-US based interpreters would be like batteries, as some sort of a backup power source. I know no one appreciates being called electricity or a battery. We are humans, not tools or utilities or resources to power a machine. But from my perspective, it almost feels like that's how we are being treated. Under the new model, the US-based interpreters will be considered expensive, high-cost inputs. To make it the most cost-efficient, they will be the ones taking as many calls as possible. There will be more severe quality control because simply terminating them will not be as easy as replacing the batteries. The batteries here would be the non-US interpreters who are supposed to be cheap, responsible for spillover calls to ensure that every call is answered in a timely manner to maintain the LSP's reputation. How does this feel? I understand that the foundation of a business is to make a profit, but at the cost of firing all of their interpreters? I really don't know. Let's move on to the next two questions, which can be sort of combined into one answer. Who is impacted by this change, and what's the timeline? As I mentioned, this impacts all US contractors and non-US contractors. From my understanding, Voyce does not have any in-house interpreters who are not independent contractors, so this essentially means that they are going to fire every one of their interpreters. For the timeline, US-based interpreters will be all gone by January 31st, 2025, and all non-US interpreters will be fired by March 2025. It's interesting to see that US contractors are being terminated first, but it's understandable if we think about that analogy I was using earlier. It's ultimately cheaper to use the batteries, especially if it is for the short term. The next question is about the future opportunities. Right off the bat, it starts with, yes, there will be opportunities to continue working with Equiti, as if they are providing some help to interpreters they just fired. Once again, I'm not going to read this out, so please feel free to pause the video if you need to give it a read. First, this is saying that US-based interpreters who are fired can reapply to Equiti. Indeed, one of the two emails the company sent included a link to the job posting. The link brings you to the Equiti careers page where it says it is hiring OPIs and VRIs, specifically only in the states of Ohio, California, and Texas. For the non-US based interpreters, they are basically saying that there is no opportunity given at this time, and more information is to come later. Here, I find this "to continue working with us" part quite ironic. Even when non-US based interpreters are hired again, it wouldn't be Voyce/Equiti that's hiring. It would be other outsourcing companies in different countries. I guarantee that if any legal issues of labor or employment were to arise in the future, Voyce/Equiti would be the first to say, this interpreter is technically not working with us. Here is the final question. Is this change related to regulatory compliance? Earlier, I mentioned that I would come back to this regulatory requirements point, so let's think about it. What on earth are they talking about? Of course, I'm not a legal expert, but we all know that there are certain regulations that these LSPs have to comply with. For medical calls, things like HIPAA, GDPR, consent laws, and some state-specific privacy laws are requirements that all LSPs must ensure that they are followed by both the LSP itself and by their interpreters. I don't honestly know what exactly these regulations are that they are referring to, but I personally think this is just bullcrap. It is extremely unlikely that there is a regulation that requires them to terminate all of their interpreters. If anything, it's probably the company trying to get away with something unlawful that they already have committed or potentially will commit. I know this video has been long enough, so let me wrap this up with what we should do. I know I could sit here, scream at every interpreter, try to tell them not to apply to Equiti, but I'm not going to do that. It's a free market, and I know it does not work like that. In fact, it is actually possible that the company might offer pretty decent pay rates to attract interpreters after this. So what can I say? I would say try to keep things under your control. Do your research and keep looking for better jobs whenever possible. Don't rely on just one company, whether it is Equiti or not. In case you haven't already checked it out, I have another video that I just posted, which is about 3 red flags in any LSPs that you should avoid at all costs. I think it will help. That is it for today's video. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, and once again, let's try to be kind to our fellow interpreters, because this really could have happened to any of us. Thank you for watching once again, and interpreter disconnecting. Bye-bye. Oh, actually, I have one more thing that I want to say before you go. I started this channel because I wanted to create a place for me to connect and communicate with other interpreters and hopefully share as much as I know with others who want to learn. I am really grateful that you are watching this video, and to all of my subscribers, but I will be honest, as I get more and more subscribers, I've started receiving way too many messages, comments, and emails to answer all of them by myself. As you can see, I'm not a robot, I'm not an AI, I'm not even a full-time YouTuber. I'm a person with a family. I'm an interpreter who still works as a remote interpreter for a living during the day and works on making YouTube videos at night. So I want to take this opportunity to apologize if I don't leave a reply to any of your comments. I'm really sorry, but please know that I am not ignoring you on purpose. Luckily for me, there is a solution. YouTube has a membership function where people can support me to keep making videos like this. I know some people might not like this idea and criticize me for trying to make money off of this, but I'm gonna be realistic here. I do need money if I want to keep making videos, and I really do want to keep making videos for other interpreters. At the same time, I don't want to make exclusive content only for people who can give me money. So I have been thinking about how to utilize this membership function, and this is what I've decided. I'm going to make just one level of membership, which is called Interpreter. It's $1.99 per month, and as I said, you don't get anything special in terms of exclusive videos or content, but I will prioritize answering your questions in the comments if you are willing to support me as a fellow interpreter. This will really help me a lot so I can focus on making more videos. Oh, and also you will get these cute interpreter emoji stickers that you can see in the comments. I made them myself and I named it Terpy Terp. I hope you like them. If you like my videos and if you are willing to support what I do on my channel, please kindly join the membership and consider being my fellow interpreter. Thank you so much for listening to this bit, and I will see you in the next video, this time for real. Interpreter disconnecting. Bye-bye.